I say I feel like a lot.
I feel.
God. Okay.
Sorry.
Move that face though.
Do you remember that Friends episode? Pivot! 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 I hate that word pivot. Welcome to All That Catholic Stuff, Faith and Family Edition. Today, I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Katie.
Hi, everyone. It has really been a crazy year.
A lot can happen in a year.
It really can.
A lot of changes have happened in our life this year. And through all of that and through all of the circumstance with COVID and everything, there is one thing in particular that has changed everything for us.
Mm-hmm. Roll intro.
So there have been a lot of changes. Like, what kind of changes have we had in our life this year?
Oh, the biggest one. And it's so funny because God really does work in amazing ways. We used to always say that if God wanted us to homeschool our kids, that he would give us a sign.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too because I feel like maybe there were little signs before that we should have, but we were always like, that's not the sign.
No, we're not homeschool material.
No, God hasn't shown us quite yet that we're supposed to homeschool. Well, we homeschool.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I feel like we would have never thought homeschool life would be what it is. We always kind of thought that we would dread it or like it would be too difficult.
Mostly that we'd be sucky at it.
Yes,
honestly.
that we would
like,
not be very good at
parents
it.
and teachers of our kids.
But man, have we ever come
But who knows?
to know?
There's still time. It sounds kind of crazy and it sounds maybe even counterintuitive. But we actually are very thankful for this last year because if it weren't for COVID and all of the circumstances that surrounding it, we probably would never have had the guts to even consider doing homeschooling in a serious capacity.
I feel like we always were open to homeschooling, but we never really wanted to do it. But this COVID, I'm like, this is such a blessing that COVID has shown us that we can do this and that we should be doing this. And we love it.
It's been so good for us as a family, for our faith life, for our family life, for us. Like we're learning so much. We recognize too that there are people that are living in all kinds of circumstances. And this hasn't been an easy season for us either. But we've come to appreciate that, like, even though COVID is not something that is a good thing, like we would never want to wish that on anyone, that God can still produce good things.
Yes,
through
God
these
is
times.
God is still working.
As much as we love homeschooling, there's also been struggles with that. Like, like figuring out how what are we supposed to be teaching our kids?
Right. Or also just the amount of time now that we spend with our kids.
Takes
We
effort.
love it, but it's also like
It's draining.
24/7.
Yeah.
Which that is a wonderful thing when you when you can be thankful for that. But we were not used to that.
No, we weren't. No. We were used to having a break where our kids left the house for a certain number of hours
we
a day.
were those parents that, like, the end of summer, we were like, yeah, back to school. We were those parents. And I totally get it. I totally get that it is a break to send your kids to school, for sure. But we don't really get that break anymore. So that can be challenging.
Yeah. It was a struggle.
Yes.
Like, it was an
There's
adjustment.
5 of them. That's like,
There's a lot of them.
that's nonstop
We're
talking
outnumbered.
all day. And they're all girls. There's a lot of chattering in our house.
We're so thankful that all the obstacles and the impediments for us to be able to homeschool were kind of removed. And God was like, okay, now what's your excuse?
That's right. Now's the time.
Yeah.
There's no more excuses.
I finally learned how to do long division.
It was a long time coming.
And I learned that there's 7 continents and not 8. I mean, it's amazing, all the things that I did not know.
You don't know what you're missing until you see it. And we were missing that.
Yeah.
So thank you, COVID.
Yeah. Another thing that has changed significantly for us is the way that we do ministry. Prior to a year ago, like, I was doing 100 to 120 ministry events a year, like traveling to churches, to schools. I was away for like a couple weeks, even at a time. And that
has changed.
That has changed. And not to say that, like, man, I'm missing. I miss it. I miss being in a room with people that just love Jesus and allowing the Holy Spirit to work, and the excitement of that and the passion. Because as much as we are grateful for the technology to do ministry this way,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not. But at least we're grateful and we're thankful that we still can reach people this way. But that's definitely changed.
But then also there's little joys in that as well. You have not been gone as much. And I love that. The kids love it. I feel like you've gotten some really good quality family time in.
Yeah. And for all of what that means, like whether it's financial impact or whatever, it's like like, when am I ever going to have this much time with my kids again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't help but be thankful for this time. And honestly, you know, people talk about in ministry about burnout. And I totally get it, because I was burnt out and I didn't even realize it because I was in the thick of it all the time. Jesus needed to rest, and he's God.
Right.
Like, he would go in the scriptures, he would go up to the mountain and seclude and be away from people, and to have time to be quiet, to rest, to pray. And I realized that I needed that too. So a word that has been used so much during this pandemic is the word pivot. And I hate that word. Hate the word pivot. Now, I get it. I've had to pivot. Like, when all of my ministry events like are indefinitely canceled for the next however long, like, I realized early on that I needed to pivot.
Right.
And it's annoying because do you remember that Friends episode where Ross
Oh, yes.
and his buddies they're moving the couch up the stairs, and
Yes.
he's like, pivot, pivot, pivot. I hate that word pivot. But that's what we needed to do. Is we needed to pivot.
Right. And it's uncomfortable, and it's...
Yeah, but it's also been a good thing for me, because it's forced me to be reminded of, like, okay, I understand what my mission is. My mission is to spread the gospel. And am I stuck in doing that in one particular way, or am I willing to follow where God is calling me to do that in whatever way? Am I willing to change my method to accomplish the mission? And that was a really good test and realization for me, is that, okay, no, God has not revoked the calling.
Right.
There's still people that need hope, need Jesus. And so guess what? We got to just reach them in whatever capacity is available to us. And man, Zoom fatigue and that whole, like, I get that. It's not my passion. It's not where I love being in a room with people. So that has been a struggle. But God's grace is still working through all of those things. It's quite amazing to see that you wouldn't think that it would be possible, whether to run an alpha online or to, like, do praise and worship through a live stream, and yet God is touching people that way. And so I just, like, okay, God, I'll follow you. I'll be obedient to that. And so that's been comforting.
So even this time where it's challenging and difficult, your difficulties would be different than our difficulties. Most definitely. Everyone's lives look different.
Yeah.
But God's got it.
There's different kinds of struggles in different families. But I think being attentive to, like, how does God want to work through this circumstance? You know, it's been a struggle for me this year has been watching people's reaction to all of these world circumstances in their own lives. And I guess being a little disheartened by it. Seeing people... I would never have thought that would be their reaction to certain things, whether that's like political things, whether it's stuff with vaccines or COVID or laws or whatever, and just seeing the vice starting to show through instead of virtue. And I think, like, as Christians, like, what an opportunity. Now is our time to shine and to reflect the glory of God to the world.
To live joyfully, even in hard times.
Yeah. And so that's been a struggle for me, is twofold, I guess. One is seeing that in other people. And then at times even recognizing that in myself. Like, okay,
It's true.
you know what? I'm complaining about this. I just need to stop and offer it up to God and just stop it. You know?
Just stop it.
Just stop it.
A struggle for me, and I think for our kids too, has been not being able to see a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
We see a couple people, grandparents, but we really are missing people. And
You especially, because you're an extrovert.
yes,
You love the peoples.
I do love the peoples, and I want to hug the peoples, all the people in my life that I love.
Yeah.
I miss them. But that's going to come back. And I also think this time where something is pulled back a little bit that you can enjoy, what a blessing it's going to be when we can.
Yeah.
So knowing that that's coming, knowing that that's good, and I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. So this time of struggle, I know that there's an end. I know that we're going to be able to see people again, see family and friends. But that is a struggle right now, not being able to see them all. For myself, not so much. You're an introvert, so not so much for you. But there were
Lovely.
there have been a few times where Chris
Just
was
kidding.
like, I'm actually missing people. Which, for an introvert, I'm like, it's gotta be really bad if you start missing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. And that's not, I mean, I love people. I
Yes,
love
he
seeing people.
does.
I like smaller groups of people. I love doing ministry, and I love that. But when it comes to, like, socializing for leisure, I like just a couple of people in a room, where you can have a real conversation and it's sort of quiet.
Right.
Maybe because I don't get the quiet very often. I don't know. But there's been times where I've looked at you and I've been like, man, I feel like hanging out with someone right now. That's so weird. It's so unlike me.
It is so unlike you.
The common thread through all of these circumstances for us, and really what we've come to appreciate so much about this last year and all of its changes, is gratitude. Like, we have come to just have hearts that are just so grateful for what God is doing through this time. And again, not to diminish the people that have had like a lot of real hardship and suffering during this time, and we have too, but we've also been able to, and I think it's a grace, we've been able to recognize that God is doing good through these terrible circumstances as well. Like, he doesn't necessarily will bad things to happen, but if we allow him, he can take those circumstances and work it for good. Romans 8, right? He works all things for the good of those who love him. And I think when we apply that into our lives, like, when we offer him a sucky situation and just say, God, I offer this to you, do what you want with it, like, he can do something profound.
He really can.
And like, whether we offer him homeschooling, or we offer him like, okay, pivoting in ministry, or we offer him like just even the ache and of isolation and wanting to see people, we offer him all of those things, and it's like our hearts are suddenly filled with gratitude.
It's really easy to look at the world and to look at our lives right now and just see negative and all these horrible things that are happening. But if you were to sit down and you were to look at your life, even daily, and say, what is something that I'm thankful for? Sometimes we have to be redirected and just say, you know what, I'm thankful for this meal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that go without food. I'm thankful for this. Or even during family prayer time, Nora says, like, I'm thankful for our house, because we see people that are living on the streets. So we have so much to be thankful for, even in this time where it feels like the world is falling apart.
It can when you watch the news.
There are still things to be thankful for.
You like to think of me as a pessimist.
I don't know if I would say, I wouldn't call you a pessimist.
Really? I like to think of myself as a realist. You're the optimist. I'm the realist. And
that's why we make such a good team.
I think sometimes I float into pessimism, and I can find myself getting caught in the current of complaining and like self-loathing. And what immediately changes that and remedies that for me is just the exercise of having to be grateful for something. And when I look around and I see, like, we have a home, and we have beautiful children, and we have some friends, and we have
we have a couple friends,
and we look around, like, we have so much to be thankful for. We are so blessed, not just because of, like, it's not blessed in possessions, but we're blessed because God has provided and he's good. That's why we're blessed. And like, we could have nothing and I still have hearts of gratitude. I mean, the saints demonstrate that for us. And like, I think we can learn a lot from our, like, embracing our hardships with love and offering that to God. And gratitude really has really changed a lot in our lives this last year in all those circumstances.
So maybe that's a great exercise for people. Maybe if you are struggling and you feel like there's not a lot of good in the world and not a lot of blessings in your life, sit down and actually name them. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes there are little ones that slip through that we don't even realize that are there. But there are blessings. There are things to be thankful for. And know that we as a family, we're praying for you. We pray that you will have joy and peace in your life.
Because joy and peace, that doesn't come from the circumstance that we're in. That's a reality that we have because of the relationship that we have with God. If you're struggling with feeling the weight of these circumstances and the lack of joy and the peace and contentment through it, then maybe what we need to do is try leaning into gratitude in our faith, just being thankful. Like, God gave us everything that he had he gave his life for us and suffered and died for us. Like, how can we not be grateful, even if we have to endure some circumstances on our journey to heaven? Gratitude.
Gratitude, baby. Boom.
If you were inspired by this episode, I'd be so grateful if you would share it with others who might be uplifted by it as well. Make sure you go to my website, chrispraymusic.com, for more music, videos, and talks. And it would also be grateful if you would consider supporting our ministry at patreon.com/chrispray.
Thanks, everyone.
God bless you.
You're calling me closer and closer to you.
Because you like blurted it in
I know, I'm
and
sorry.
took
Good
away
job.
my little butterfly brain.
I I lost my butterflies too. Oh, I got a good one. Okay.
Okay.
A boogie droplet? I don't think so.
Okay. Don't use that. That's not to be in this. If you post this, that was not supposed to be in it.
I'm in so much trouble.
But
Or
you
let's
know,
just smile. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Amen.
Yeah.
And then yourself. And then your boat.
Jesus. Others. You. The Apple iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate bars.
Oh, man. Oh, well.
Oh. Getting kissy on camera.
Just a kiss. You're not a kiss. We could be done.